We pick back up with Roxy and ROOD. Roxy asks ROOD to clarify what he means. ROOD explains that for a long time, Lord N lived in the wild with Pokemon. During this time, he had befriended many of them, but there was a particular group of them that he held close to himself, including this Zorua. He never caught it, but where Lord N went, Zorua followed. Then, after the events of 3 years ago, Lord N disappeared, and Zorua just stayed here, waiting for his return. In this time, it's become very reclusive. It didn't show much emotion to anyone until today, when you saved it. Roxy tells ROOD that she was glad to help, and hands Zorua to him. Back at the gym, Ash and Riolu stand ready to face Clay and Krokorok. Ash thinks the last battle was intense. He needs something that has pure advantage. Clay is all about power, so he'll go with speed. Ash yells, "Levani, I choose you." Clay comments, "Ash, playing it safe, are we? Are you only going to use type advantage?" Ash says he's playing it smart, and the battle starts. Clay takes the first move, telling Krokorok to get in close and to use Crunch. But this is what Ash was hoping for. And Levani counters with Protect. Then Ash orders the next scissor, which connects, but Clay was ready for it and uses Torment to counter. Ash doesn't notice any damage to Levani, so to capitalize on the opening Clay just gave him, he orders another X scissor, but Levani flinches and then is met with the bulldoze with full force. Ash asks Levani, "What's wrong?" Clay says, "Ash, that's Torment for you." Ash asks, "What do you mean?" Clay says, "Now that Levani is under Torment, it can't use the same moves back to back." Ash thinks to himself, "Great. Now he has to be careful not to use the same move back to back, and he also has to worry about Levani becoming slower after being hit with the bulldoze. How will he be able to get out of this one?" Back with Roxy and ROOD, Zorua struggles to get away from ROOD. It wants to go back with Roxy. It jumps out of ROOD's arms and back into Roxy's. Roxy is confused, and ROOD just laughs. Just then, Hugh comes walking back up with Pignite and someone in tow. It's a member of Neo Team Plasma. It appears Hugh has captured him, and Pignite was keeping him contained. Hugh is extremely excited. He gloats about having caught a member of Team Plasma, and he's going to make them tell them everything that he knows. Just then, ROOD asks, "Gordon, is that you?" Hugh and Roxy, puzzled, say, "What?" Gordon says, "Hey ROOD, it's been a while." Hugh says, "You know him, ROOD?" ROOD says, "Yes, this is Gordon, one of the undercover agents we have in Neo Team Plasma." Hugh is stunned into silence. ROOD asks Gordon if he is okay. He says yes. ROOD then asks what happened. It had been months since they last heard any contact from him, and he thought that he had been captured. Gordon replies, "Luckily no, but security has been very tight. And when we came here, and this young man started to give us chase, I knew that this would be my chance to communicate with you. So I faked getting captured." Hugh just lets out an angry yell and walks off. Roxy tells them she will go after him and follows. ROOD asks Gordon if he's gotten any new information from Neo Team Plasma. Gordon says only one thing. Gordon pulls out a USB drive and hands it to ROOD. Gordon then says that he has to go, and he takes off. ROOD stares at the USB drive intensely. Back at the gym, Ash has his hands full. The battle has been an intense one, but Ash and Levani have an ace up their sleeve. As Levani starts to glow, Ash knows that he has to do this right. Swarm is active, but if X Scissor misses, Levani will lose. Ash orders Levani to charge in. Clay knows Ash's plan and all about Swarm. He tells Krokorok to wait, as Levani is much slower right now. As Levani gets in close, Ash orders the next scissor. Krokorok dodges off to the side. This is what Ash wanted, and he orders Razor Leaf that connects at close range with a critical hit, knocking out Krokorok. Ash is excited. Now he has the lead, but just barely. Levani is really worn out, and Ash knows it will not be able to finish the next battle. Clay tells Ash that was pretty clever to bait him with the X-Scissor like that, but it won't happen again, and he sends out his Excadrill. Back outside, Roxy is running to catch up with Hugh, calling his name. Hugh finally stops, and Roxy asks what's wrong. Hugh looks at Pignite, rubs its head, and sighs deeply. "I feel like I'm not good enough," he says. Roxy replies, "What do you mean?" Hugh says it's his personal mission to stop Team Plasma and get back Purloin from whoever took it. But lately, he can't do anything right. He faced Clay 2 times and lost, and now he thinks that he finally has a win by capturing a grunt of Neo Team Plasma. It turns out it's only because he wanted to be captured. Hugh goes on to state that he feels like that he will never be able to complete his mission. Roxy chimes in. Hugh, that's all part of the growth. Look at Ash. He has been behind both you and Banga since you started your journeys. But he doesn't quit. He just keeps moving forward in a constant state of growth. She tells him what happened in Mbasa City and how Riolu ran away and how he lost his first gym battle with Elisa. But then, after regrouping and training to tighten up their bond with his Pokemon, he managed to win his rematch. Ash may be a little bit stubborn, but he never gives up on what he believes in. And you can't either. Hugh looks at Pignite as it nods in encouragement, and Hugh says, "You're right, buddy. Thanks for sticking by me." And they head back to where ROOD is located. Back at the gym, the third match is about to start. Ash wants to play it safe and orders a grass whistle, but Excadrill dodges and uses Hone Claws. Levani can't keep up with Excadrill. It's too worn out, and Excadrill rushes in with a Metal Claw. Ash counters with an X-Scissor, which does connect with Excadrill, but it doesn't matter. The damage was minimal, and the Metal Claw connects, knocking out Levani. Ash recalls it and thanks it for a battle well fought. Clay tells Ash he wants a match of pure power. Come at him with everything he's got. Ash thinks he could go with Swanna. It does have the type advantage, but they are in an enclosed space, and when he tried to do that at the Castelia gym, it nearly cost him the match. Ash decides it's not worth the risk and looks at Clay. Ash pulls out a Pokeball and says, "Alright, you want power? Then you'll get power. Roggenrola. I choose you." Clay responds, "Gutsy, choosing something with a type disadvantage? I like it." And he gives Ash the first move. Ash calls for an Iron Defense, and Clay orders a Rock Slide that connects, but Roggenrola doesn't feel it. Ash then orders a Rock Blast, but Excadrill dodges and gets in close and connects with the Metal Claw, knocking it back. Ash is worried. He can see that it was super effective and calls for another Iron Defense. Clay tells Ash that he can't win playing only defense, as he orders a Bulldoze, which connects. Ash doesn't listen and orders another Iron Defense. Clay doesn't like the lack of action and orders Excadrill to end it with a Metal Claw. But Ash wanted this and orders a Flash Cannon that connects with Excadrill. But Excadrill is still pushing through with Metal Claw. Ash tells Roggenrola it needs to push harder. It needs more power. Roggenrola hears this and puts everything into pushing back Excadrill, causing a lot of damage. But Excadrill still stands, and Roggenrola is running low on energy. Clay orders another Metal Claw, which connects. Ash calls to Roggenrola, and it starts to glow. The evolution pushes back Excadrill, and now Ash has a Bulldor. Ash pulls out his Pokédex and reads Bulldor, the Ore Pokemon. When it's healthy, its core sticks out and is always facing the same way. It swiftly moves from front to back and left to right. Bulldor has now learned a new move, Rock Slide. Ash is ecstatic, and Clay can't keep his excitement contained. Now the two will have a battle of real power. Ash knows that Bulldor is not at full health, and he has to do something to make a huge power push. Clay orders a Bulldoze, and Ash tells Bulldor to take it, but to grab Excadrill and lift it into the air. It does, and now Excadrill is stuck. Ash orders Bulldor to use a Flash Cannon at full power, which connects. Bulldor drops Excadrill, but it stands back up. It took a lot of damage from the Flash Cannon and is noticeably hurt, but is still willing to battle. Ash and Clay know that the next move will decide the match. Clay orders a Metal Claw, and Excadrill rushes in. Ash puts all of his hopes on one move and orders a Rock Slide, which comes flying at Excadrill, too fast to dodge, causing a flinch. Excadrill and Bulldor look at each other as Excadrill falls in defeat. Ash can't believe it. To think, he almost forfeited the match. He looks at Riolu and runs over to Bulldor to hug it. Clay comes over to Ash and presents him with the Quake badge and tells him he's never had a battle like that one and he should be proud of himself. Ash thanks Clay and heads back up to the surface. At the top, Ash meets with Roxy and Hugh. He tells him that he won and he shows him the badge. They congratulate him and they tell him about what happened and that they are on their back to talk with ROOD. Hugh looks upset and Ash asks what's wrong. Hugh says he's happy that Ash got the Quake badge, but he still doesn't. Now he's being left behind. Ash tells Hugh not to worry. He will get one. He just has to keep moving forward. Hugh just smiles, and then they head back to ROOD. Upon arrival, they talk with him, and he invites them all in to stay the night. Ash says he would love to, but his Pokemon need to be looked at, and he needs to go to the Pokemon Center. He and Roxy leave, but Hugh stays. He wants to talk one-on-one with ROOD. Later at the Pokemon Center, while they are waiting for Nurse Joy, Ash and Roxy hear a scream from another trainer. Roxy stands up, and there stands Zorua. The trainer tried to pick it up, but it bit her. Roxy walks over and apologizes and picks up Zorua, then returns to Ash. She asks what that was all about. Roxy explains everything that ROOD told her about Zorua. Now it has followed her to the Pokemon Center. Ash says, "It seems to like you a lot, Roxy." She responds, "Yeah. We'll have to return it in the morning, though," as the two are starting to eat. Later that night, after everyone is asleep, Riolu wakes up. It senses something. It wakes up Ash, and they go for a look. All the lights in the center are out, but Ash sees a flame at the end of a hallway and yells, "Who is it?" But they don't respond. So Ash and Riolu give chase, but the flame disappears. But Riolu can sense something, and Ash tells it to lead the way. They end up in a room that has a lot of little equipment that doesn't appear to be used anymore. Ash calls out. Then things start to fly around him, levitating off the ground. Ash starts to get frightened, and then orders Riolu to fire an aura sphere. It waits and takes aim, then fires. It sees it hit something, and it disappears, off into the darkness. All the items drop to the floor, and the lights come back on. Confused, Ash asks Riolu if it can still sense anything, and it can't, so the two head back to bed. The next morning, Ash tells Roxy about the whole event on their way to taking Zorua back. She remarks, "That's odd." They reach the reparations center, and ROOD is out front. Roxy walks up to him. She tells him that Zorua followed her to the Pokemon Center last night and tries to return it, but Zorua refuses. It wants to stay with Roxy. ROOD just laughs and says, "It seems Zorua has chosen to stay with you, Roxy." He then says to go ahead and try to catch it. After all, it still is considered a wild Pokemon. It doesn't have a trainer. Roxy looks at Zorua and pulls out a Pokeball and presents it with it. Zorua taps the ball on her head, and then inside of the ball it goes, of its own free will. ROOD says, "I have just one thing to ask. Please take good care of it." Roxy, looking at the ball, says, "Don't worry, I will." As this happens, Hugh comes out to greet them. He asks what Ash and Roxy's next move is. Ash says he told Iris that they would wait for her. She said she would be here within a week, and that she would be contacting them soon. ROOD says if you're going to be here for a few more days, you should at least check out DRIFTVEIL City and the sights. So over the next 4 days, they do, and they have a great time. But each night, Ash and Riolu both are awakened by the same experience that they had on the first night. But each time, it gets more intense. Finally, on the morning of the 5th day, Ash goes to Nurse Joy to tell her about it. She remarks, "Oh dear, Ash, I'm so sorry," then asks him to please follow her. She leads them into the room that they end up in every night and asks if this is the room. Ash responds yes. She says, "I figured," and yells, "You can come out now. You don't need to be shy." They look around for a moment. Then a flame appears out of nowhere, and Nurse Joy says, "There you are." Then a Pokemon appears. Ash pulls out his Pokédex, and it reads Lampent, the lamp Pokemon. The spirit it absorbs feel its baleful fire. It hangs out around hospitals, waiting for people to pass on. Nurse Joy says that this Lampent once belonged to a trainer that lived here in DRIFTVEIL City, but sadly, it passed on a while ago. This trainer was very good friends with Clay, the gym leader, and when the trainer passed, so Lampent wouldn't be lonely, Clay brought it here to the Pokemon Center. Since then, it seeks out trainers that have a strange bond with their Pokemon in order to test them. Ash says, "Really?" Nurse Joy responds with, "Yes. I think it's looking for a worthy trainer to battle it, so it can have a purpose again." Then she pulls out a Pokeball and says, "Here, Ash, This is Lampent's ball. Maybe it will accept you as its new trainer. Ash takes the ball and looks at Lampent. Then to Riolu. Ash knows what they must do. He challenges Lampent to a battle, and Lampent accepts. Riolu starts with the quick attack, but it has no effect. Nurse Joy tells Ash Lampent is part ghost. Normal moves won't work. Lampent then fires a flame burst, and Ash orders a counter. But that too fails. Ash doesn't understand. If they can't hit it, then they can't win. Ash orders Riolu to use quick attack to get in close, then to use force palm. But that also fails. Nurse Joy tells Ash fighting type moves don't work on ghost types either. Ash thinks, great, then what can they do? He then thinks back to the first night and the ore sphere. It managed to hit it. Ash orders Riolu to wait and get a lock on the Lampent. It does, and Ash orders Riolu to fire an ore sphere, which connects, knocking Lampent to the floor. Ash walks over to Lampent and asks if it's okay. It just smiles, and Ash pulls out the Pokeball and asks, would you like to come along with me on my journey? It looks at Ash, then taps the ball to return to the place it hasn't been in many years. Ash stands up. Nurse Joy tells Ash, take good care of Lampent. He says don't worry, he will treat it like it's supposed to be treated. They walk out of the room and meet up with Roxy. She is feeding all of her Pokemon. He presents her with the ball and tells her that he just caught Lampent. She congratulates him, then asks the serious question. How long are they going to wait for Iris? It has been 7 days after all. Ash says, let me call the Pokemon Center in Nimbasa City to talk to her. Ash calls, and Nurse Joy tells Ash that Iris hasn't been there for several days. Ash says thanks and hangs up the phone. He thinks that she may have moved on to Eastern Unova. He turns to Roxy and says, we're moving on. She isn't there and hasn't been there in several days. Later that afternoon, they are headed out at the edge of town and meet with Clay and Hugh. Clay heard that Ash caught Lampent and tells him that it belonged to a dear old friend, so to take care of it. Also, he says here, and he hands Ash the glasses that Krokorok was wearing. He said, I think that Krokorok you battled in the gym dropped these, and he might be back to get them. Ash says, thanks, Clay. Hugh tells the two that he is staying in DRIFTVEIL for a while. He's going to look over Team Plasma's files and train to beat Clay. Ash tells him that they will meet again. They wish Hugh good luck and set off. Meanwhile, ROOD has finally opened the USB drive that was given to him by Gordon. And on the screen, in big bold letters, it reads, Hey everyone, I just wanted to say thank you for your support. If you like the content that I'm providing, please don't forget to subscribe. And also, don't forget to leave a like, as it really helps out with the YouTube algorithm and helps my content get to a bigger audience to help the channel grow. I will see you in the next video.